Hey folks, just an update on my chickens. I don't know if you can see them in there, but that's Timothy George, or Curious George, my lead rooster. He's in ICU right now. He's in isolation. Basically, he sits and looks out the window all day from the shed. The shed is not a place I like to keep chickens, but anyway, what had happened is, there he is, poking his head up, wondering what I'm talking about. He is my lead rooster because he takes care of business. If anybody harasses the hens, he puts his body between the hens and the aggressor. He herds everyone into the coop at night. He's the last one in. He sleeps by the door, and he's the first one out in the morning and checks things out before he lets anyone else out. He treats the hens good. He doesn't pick on them or anything like that. Then along come the 4 banditos. There are only 2 banditos left. The other ones, well, one's in my belly and the other one's in my freezer. So the 4 banditos, they were slower growing. And so that's how George kind of got to be the lead chicken. The lead rooster, I should say. But when they did grow, they grew much bigger than George. So George was fighting, the 4 banditos were just tag teaming him one after the other. One would fight him until he wore out, and then the next one would jump in and fight him. So George had no chance, and they were beating on George, and George was at the point where he was just exhausted, laying in the corner with his head in the corner, and they were taking turns jumping on his back and pecking at the back of his head. I didn't realize roosters could be so vicious. Well, you know, I guess I did. They do cockfighting, don't they? Anywho, so I isolated George, and I made this enclosure to give the chickens more room overall, and I put one of them under the knife and then the second one under the knife, and 3 and 4, as soon as I have time, will be going under. The thing about them, not because they're big and aggressive, but they don't protect the hens. They don't look after the hens. They actually are quite brutal with the hens. And I mean, I've got one hen that's bloody and the other one missing feathers from just, I don't know how they are so cruel. I don't understand it. I was a bit embarrassed about the coop situation because I'd started off strong and I'd built this, you can see the actual coop itself is a 4x8 foot box, and it's within an 8 foot by 12 foot enclosure. But then I ran out of time and money, and it just got put on hold for the longest time, and it left the thing being very damp, very wet and muddy all the time, etc. So now I'm getting back to it, and what I've managed to do is I've managed to get these some like purlins in there on my rafters and put some tin roof. Now I've just got 3 sheets of the tin roof laid up there because it was supposed to rain. I've got some, you can see the lap of felt paper, tar paper over the top now. I need to trim that off, but it's now very dry. Now I can go ahead and cut windows and open up the ventilation for these guys because it's not good. I've got their door there. Let me open it so you can see through this chicken wire. I've got their door there that's a sliding guillotine type door, which I don't actually close at night anymore. They go in on their own and come out on their own. I've also cut a door, and that piece of paneling is just a temporary measure. I'm going to cut a permanent door, but I've cut a hole so they can go out into this enclosure that I've made. The enclosure is about, looks like about 14 feet by 12 feet. And I just left it woodsy. There are several trees in there, and the trees should actually give them some overhead cover from predators. We've got a lot of hawks around here. I don't know if they'd actually swoop in and go for a chicken, but you know, anyway. And then they can always dash back in. Now my plan, and what I do right now, I just tack that with some nails at night after they've all gone in the coop. But I plan to hinge it and put a little lock on it, so every night I can close it down, and then they're safe within the enclosure, and they can defend that door. The rooster can defend that door. Leave that door open, I think it's good enough. Also, since I've had to isolate George, I've just thought a little bit more about what I need. And what I'm going to do here on the left side of the coop, where I've got all the feed barrels, is I'm going to extend it out 4 feet. So that'll be a 4-foot by 8-foot enclosure with a small chicken box. And that will remain isolated from the rest, and I'll be able to access it through a little door I'll build in between the two. But then when I've got chicks, or I've got a sick chicken or rooster or whatever, one that's being picked on, I can keep it in a separate place so it can heal up, or it can grow to full size before having to face the entire flock. I realize that I do not have enough ventilation on this, and what occurred was, when I got started on this thing, I had cut this one window, which I planned to put a hinged closure piece for the winter. But I cut this one window with plans to do more. Then, since I didn't get the roof on in time, this one window was just, I mean, tons of water getting inside, and it was really, really a mess. Really not a good condition for them, so I held off on that. Now that I've got the tin roof, and I've got a good solid 2 feet of overhang all the way around, so this is going to be a really nice enclosure for them. I'm starting to get, it was kind of embarrassing to me, but I'm starting to get proud of it again, because this is something that I did, that I envisioned, and with the help of YouTube friends' input, was able to make it happen. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm satisfied that they're dry enough now. But what I'm going to be doing is cutting another couple of windows, insulating for the winter, extending the size of the coop, killing the last of the banditos off here, and putting them in the freezer. Yes, you. I'm talking about you. And then I'm going to pick up some hens from a neighbor, some more laying hens. I'm getting between 1 and 4 eggs per day. Usually there are at least a couple. And in fact, we can kind of look. I've got some plans for nesting boxes that I have not put in. Hey, they're going to lay their eggs regardless, but I'll get to the nesting boxes really soon. The idea came from a neighbor of mine who did theirs with the Lowe's buckets. And so I'll do it like that, and it looks kind of quick and easy. Check out these silkies. I don't know if you can see them. That is going to be Junior, the surviving rooster. He is a silky, which is a much smaller breed, and they actually lay smaller eggs. But I have 2 silky hens and a silky rooster, and they kind of do their own thing. I guess they realize they're the same size, so they stick together. But they're never any trouble, and you should hear him cock-a-doodle-doo in the morning, because it's kind of funny because he has a much smaller voice. But they are also supposed to be excellent brooders for sitting on their eggs. And let me give you a glance at the inside. The inside is still pretty dirty. One of the things I learned from YouTube early on is that one of the YouTubers who didn't have a lot of money started using just leaves as bedding and filler for his chicken coop. And then he was using a lot of oak leaves, and he found that there was not much smell. Well, he actually researched this and found that something about the oak leaves neutralizes the ammonia in the chicken poop, and there you go. So that neutralizes the odor. I've taken 2 stair steps that I got and made a roost for them there. I need to make more roosting spots for them. You can see on the wall those streaks. It's so damp in there, and I really am embarrassed about it. But this is one of those things, just time and money get all caught up with me. So we're looking at a window there on that back wall and a window there at least. And that should air it out. I've got some good plans for insulating it for the winter and finishing it up. So I'm really excited about it again. It was, you know, when you start a project, it's good to get excited about it, and then when you run into snags, especially snags that, you know, the poor critters are not getting the proper care that they need, they're not getting the proper dry spot that they need, that's kind of a downer. But anyway, it's coming along, and I'm really happy about it. I'm really happy about this new enclosure. Oh, I'm going to be raising this up. It's at 3 feet now, the chicken wire. I just bought some landscaping anchors, which are like sort of horseshoe-shaped staple type things that I can push into the ground at the base of it, the fence, the chicken wire, to keep it down. And I'll raise it up to 6 feet. That's just an extra bit of fencing that I haven't trimmed off yet, which I found is really good for catching the 4 amigos. Okay, down to 2 amigos. Anyway, all is well. Stay safe.